think we have almost little more than 20 participants already who have joined. So a very warm welcome to everybody for this evening session. And I'm confident that next 40-45 minutes will be excellent in terms of content and in terms of presentation. And definitely the integral part of any session is the Q&A, which will follow. That is a short agenda. Before we start, let me give a little brief about Karyograph, which is known in West Bengal very much and has been an integral part of pharma field force. And we are extremely thankful to all those companies who have been supporting for us for last 20 years. And Karyograph has placed more than 10,000 medical representatives at pan-India level, working with most of the top companies and management. It not only speaks of volume, but the trust that you have in the ability of Karyograph. Therefore, it's a small gesture from our side to add a little value for all pharmaceutical professionals who have been part and parcel of our progress in this journey. Let me welcome today's speaker, Mr. Deepak Paramanik. He has insisted that I should be very brief to introduce him. Therefore, I will take, I will have probably the shortest introduction for Deepak. Deepak is basically, he's a mechanical engineer from IIT Chennai, Madras, and then he's also with IIM Calcutta. He has an experience with Pfizer in product management for several years, and subsequently he moved to in the marketing in various sector and industry. Currently, he is a consultant. He's having his own consultancy firm, which is based in Kolkata, and ADS Consulting, which is there as a logo. And we are very much thankful, Deepak, for sparing your time for this venture. And I'm sure people will really are interested, looking forward to listen to you, and will have a newer perspective in terms of digital marketing. Over to you, Deepak.
Thank you, Uday. And thank you everybody at Karyograph for considering me worthwhile to spend a Saturday evening at 7 p.m. with all of you. And all of us, I have spent time in pharmaceutical industry. And I know and I'm aware that at 7 p.m. on Saturday night, being in between a glass of whiskey and yourself is actually very risky. So I'll try and make it as short and as sweet as possible. Actually, you know, I am collaborating with Uday after 28 years. I left Pfizer in 1994 early, and we've done a lot of work together during our days, and we are very proud of the type of work that we had done. And I would like to believe that we were ahead of the industry. We've done a lot of work. Someday, sometime, hopefully, we'll have a chance to discuss it in a more private situation. I have been a part of this team Ideas, that's the name of our company, and for the last 18 years now, 2004, so that's 17 years. And we do a lot of work around research. We do a lot of work around education. We do a lot of work around the marketing, branding, HR strategy. And of course, we do a lot of work around training. We also have important tie-ups with a lot of high-end, what should I say, technical companies who are offering their services for a variety of reasons. So what we're going to do today is, over the next half an hour, 35 minutes, we will talk about the impact of this digital behavior on healthcare industry and the possibilities that are there with all of us in pharmaceutical companies and professionals. Here, I would request you to focus on the word behavior, because I believe that digital was always growing. What this pandemic did was it forced us to change our behavior. And I'm sure you will agree that what our parents and teachers could not do, Corona did it. We always wash our hands now. Mothers of young children learned more than what they learned in school. In 2019, mobile was not allowed in school. And in 2020, coming to school was not allowed. Instead, use the mobile. So it's a huge paradigm shift that we are talking about. And what we are talking about is behavior. If you ask me, if there was no virus and the schools had said that please start, we are starting online classes and you can attend the classes from home, you don't have to travel, this, that, etc., I'm sure nobody would have accepted it as a parent. And that is what is the focus of the talk today. And what I finally boil down to is what is it for each one of us as an individual, and where I see that the pharma industry is going to move from today to the next 4 years, and what do I need to do as an individual, as a professional, to get what I deserve from this opportunity. There is a joke which is floating, which says that children who are born in 2020 may believe that our face is a private part, which needs to be kept covered for privacy. But that's the fact of life. I mean, we cannot think of moving around without a mask. And that's a behavioral change. Doctors, we consult with ILS hospitals. I know so many doctors whom we wanted to type in their prescription. They said, nah, till I sign the prescription, I don't get the satisfaction of seeing the patient. But I know very senior doctors who are consulting patients online, but more importantly, today they are willing to type in the prescriptions instead of writing them. This singular change in behavior amongst doctors is going to open up a huge area which is absolutely untapped, and that is analytics. That is all about epidemiology. It is all about use of drugs under various indications. Uday will remember we had the CMARC audit, prescription audit, where some 800 doctors were covered, and we used to do a lot of analysis out of those audits to figure out what is the prescription pattern of doctors. But those will become passé. You won't believe, I'm sure all of us are aware of CMC Vellore. Vellore, actually for many years now, everything is online. It's a paperless treatment in Vellore, especially for an IPD patient. Everything comes at the desk, and with the registration number, the doctor does everything online. So that's why CMC Vellore is ahead of many institutions in this country. What is getting totally redefined is home care. And we all know hotel care. I mean, I know for sure that there were requests for friends and family that they wanted to be treated in a hotel which ILS hospital was managing. And you know, a hotel is all about standards of servicing. How do you connect remotely? This is one huge area which is going to have a lot of scope. Imagine children of elderly parents not living in the city where the parents are, and whichever organization, and it could be an individual also, can offer what I call reliable service, will have it all. And this is possible only because of the behavioral change that we have undergone. Digitization was always there. Chemist's role is getting redefined. Uday and I have done enough chemist audit to figure out which doctor is prescribing what, especially when we have launched new variants or new molecules. But today, if you look at advertising, there is so much discounts has become a primary driver of customer motivation, which is being advertised aggressively across media, including digital media, whether it's PharmEasy, NetMeds, MedPlus, anything. And at one point in time, it was sacrosanct. How can you give any discount at the chemist level? Generic medicines are being promoted for online purchases. Dava India. Now, this will have a huge impact on the industry. and it will primarily impact pricing strategy of companies. I remember I was the product manager who launched AmloGuard, and I think we launched it at 20 rupees a tablet, if you recall correctly, in 1993. I can't think of such pricing today. I mean, we had enough story about it, Goli ke piche kya hai, and all those stuff that we did to motivate the team to sell it. But the fact remains that all this that is happening will have severe impact on pricing strategy, and what it will invariably lead to is cost rationalization. It will be ruthlessly driven by every company, and cost comes in all shapes and size, all forms, and this is also going to impact the way we lead our lives currently and beyond. I think what has changed, and that's the biggest behavioral change, is there is this belief both ways from a doctor's side that I can treat patient by not being physically present in front of him or her. And I, as a patient, also have this confidence and belief today that I can be treated by the doctor even now I'm not sitting in front of him in his OPD chamber. And I think this belief both ways is going to impact the future most. Let me give an example. I'm sure all of us have been flying sometime or the other. There was a point of time when we used to go present our ticket at the check-in counter and we'll get a boarding pass. Then came a time when we'll have to print, but we have to go to the check-in counter, they will stamp that I have reported, and then you could go in. Today, you carry the boarding pass straight to security check. You can only dump your luggage if need be. And in places like Hyderabad airport, if you're a cabin baggage, you just walk through the special security where it's everything electronic. So hospitals have experienced the same phenomenon in terms of OPD consultation. Now look at it from a human perspective. So their entire people strategy about customer care, their entire people strategy about OPD consultation can be reworked dramatically to accommodate more patients without compromising on anything. And that would not have been possible unless we were compelled to change our behavior. And I think what we should focus about is not digital, but about the behavior which we need to sort of embrace in a global world, in a world which is all about digital. The fact remains that all of us will live with the fear of the virus. That will continue for some time to come. Some of us will be reckless, some of us will be extra careful. Now, this may look like, what is this? This is no big deal. But remember one thing, this behavior of being reckless or extra careful are two extremes. Something is in between. Now, this behavior will influence marketing strategies. This behavior will influence the digital marketing strategy. This behavior will influence training strategy in organizations because both are customers. And how you reach out to a person and motivate him or her to come out who's extra careful, and how do you help a person who's extremely reckless to embrace methods which will help that person first and the rest of the world after that, is again a strategy. So what we will look at is what is in store for us. Before we come, and I'm emphasizing, if you see my title here, I will come to each individual. What is it in me that I need to remember? So we'll look at first as India as a nation, for the pharmaceutical industry, for the healthcare industry, and for us as individuals. This is data of World Bank. The right-hand side with all the map of different countries in the world suggests that we are amongst the lowest spending nation in terms of percentage of money spent as of a GDP on healthcare. We are actually, if you look at the left-hand curve, from 2000, where we spend more than 4% of our GDP on healthcare, it has actually climbed down to 3.5% in 2018. Now, the absolute value could be higher because the overall GDP would have gone up. But in percentage terms, it is less than 5%, in fact, less than 4%. And the other hand, you look at the US, it is more than 9.6% of such a large economy. So what we anticipate that, and there's enough that you can read up in the available literature, that India can only keep increasing. Will move from 193 US dollar billion to 372 in 2022. In 2 years, it is nearly going to double. That's huge for any industry. The government aims to increase healthcare spending to 3% of GDP. This is public spending. What you saw previously was public plus private. Number of medical colleges have gone up in the country. And of course, the COVID vaccine has shown that government has the right intention. Now, the data which I'm presenting here is about healthcare, which comprises hospitals, medical devices, clinical trials, outsourcing, telemedicine, medical tourism, health insurance, and medical equipment, and pharma, of course. So we need to look at healthcare as a market. And I believe this pandemic has actually helped India to entrench itself firmly on the global map. We all know that we have started exporting our vaccine. I anticipate collaborative R&D efforts with quick discovery targets. We all know, having worked in Pfizer, how many years it takes to discover a molecule or invent a molecule. But the vaccine came out much faster. The standards have changed. And there will be a lot of collaborative efforts between global and Indian teams with quick discovery targets. Today's newspaper, in fact, yesterday was the first meeting Quad, India, US, Japan, and Australia. 4 of them have collaborated for various things. And one of them is, how do we make India as the active ingredients manufacturing hub for the world so that one can shift it from China? Imagine the amount of employment this will create. Imagine the amount of work, enhanced work level that it will create. The amount of infrastructure this will build is amazing. And we know for sure that the government of India has embarked on a skill development program which is primarily aimed for exporting trained manpower. And I foresee this for healthcare segment in nursing, paramedics, and a lot of digital analysts that the industry needs. The government's efforts, I can guarantee you, will increase. Look at some data. First and foremost, because of political reasons, there are a lot of these populist schemes. I'll not name any one of them because then people may say that I'm taking somebody's side. But we know that the government wants to give healthcare to the common man, and for which they are looking at the private hospitals to work together. Something has to work, otherwise it will not happen. Current statistics says that in India, for every 10,000 population, there are 8 physicians only, and there are 8.5 beds per 10,000 population. And per capita government spending on healthcare is approximately around 2,000 rupees, which is nothing. And therefore, what I anticipate is a lot of PPP models, private-public partnerships. Mark my words, this is bound to happen, and a lot of work will happen in terms of creating hospitals, in terms of creating diagnostic centers, in terms of making medicines, injectables affordable. A lot of work will take place in this regard. And this is going to present a humongous opportunity for all of us. One thing is going to happen definitely, that is manpower rationalization. Manpower will definitely get rationalized. The way pharma is being marketed today and the way pharma will be marketed in 2023 is going to change. Earlier, doctors were not connected with pharma companies digitally. Today they are. The intersection of a doctor, patient, pharma, hospital, clinic is going to be driven digitally. And what will happen, and please don't get scared about this, technology and digital will definitely replace few job functions. Number of salespeople actually will increase, but in a way will decrease. Existing companies will require less number of salespeople, but newer companies, newer healthcare opportunities will emerge for people who are experienced in pharmaceutical sales and marketing. There is going to be a shake-up, there is going to be a turmoil, and those of us who cannot become a part of this digital behavior may be left out. And of course, roles will definitely get redefined. 200% roles will get redefined. A pharma salesperson's role will get redefined in a huge way. Imagine online chemists at discounts. Would they impact the offline purchase? Will the pharma sales team have any role to play in that? The answer is yes. Will the doctor like to have a digital meeting rather than a physical meeting? Some of them will prefer that. So in that case, do you need a person in the local area, or it can be done from a singular central location? Things will emerge. It has to emerge. And everywhere technology will play a very important role. Kennedy, coincidentally, in a speech which he gave in 1959, said the word crisis in Chinese language is a combination of danger and opportunity. I don't know whether Chinese language was coincidental or incidental, but the fact remains the world believes that the crisis that we have seen and have gone through originated in China. But look at the vision of this man. He says that it is a combination of danger, that something will happen to me, and opportunity, because there could be some other door which can open for me. So let us look at it from a crisis perspective, because things can't get worse than that. So I have a very simple formula to beat the crisis. And this is not restricted to the pandemic that we are facing. Any crisis has to be tackled in 4 basic dimensions. First is behavior. Second is expectations and management of expectations. Third is attitude. And fourth is time orientation. Let me spend 30 seconds on each of them. Behavior. If we do not align ourselves to the behavior or conduct which the situation demands, will we ever be able to beat a crisis? The answer is no. If our expectations are not recalibrated because they are influenced by crisis, we may be expecting something which is no longer a realistic expectation. And this belief that the crisis can impact anybody else, not me, this attitude will take us nowhere. I know people are, why do I need to wear a mask? I don't have anything. I know people who smoke this. I have increased my consumption of cigarettes to keep the virus away. Some people say, I drink more alcohol, so the virus will not impact. No, you are fooling yourself. So unless your attitude is that of accepting the crisis and riding on it, you can never take one. And time orientation, because what is relevant today may not be relevant tomorrow. And whatever happens, the day will remain 24 hours. That will not change despite any crisis that we face. So these four elements is very, very important for us to remember if we really want to beat the crisis. I think I don't have any research, but I'm sure if I look at some source of data, immunity is the most abused word that I can think of. I have seen advertisements where plywood say that was this is immune. Cement bags, this is immune. Soap, of course, immune. Edible oils, immunity. Vitamins and supplements, of course, immunity. So everybody seems to be riding the immunity wave. But here is my first word of caution to all of us. I include myself. We cannot be immune to change. And believe it or not, it has to begin with myself. If we become immune to change, and if we believe others will change, I'll remain where I am, we are in a fool's paradise. We cannot be immune to change, and we have to begin it with ourselves. Balance of the session that I'm going to talk is all about this change and how it's a big opportunity for all of us. Jack Welch, we all know who he is, the legendary CEO of GE. He says when the rate of change outside exceeds the rate of change inside, the end is in sight. Wonderful. So if the rate at which the world or the environment around me is changing, if that rate of change is faster than the rate of change which is happening within me, we are not very far from the end. And therefore, we must ask ourselves, is my rate of change greater than the change outside? If we ask the question truthfully, the answer is maybe is the best guess. I do not know how many of us can truthfully say, yes, it is more than that. All of us have got into this area where we believe the world will continue the way it is. Nobody anticipated the virus. This will never change, that we will all have 24 hours in a day. I mean, Uday and I have much less hair than many of us in this group, I'm sure. But we also have 24 hours, even though we spend very little time to manage this, and those of you who have Bachchan type hair. But what has already changed, and if it has not, then there is a serious issue, is the way we spend this 24 hours. I can give you my example. I used to read 4 newspapers in the morning. First 6 months in pandemic, I didn't read a single newspaper. So we've changed. The way we are using our 24 hours has definitely changed. If it has not, then something is wrong. That's point number 1. So what we must realize that all of us are equal on at least one vital resource, and that is time. So whatever we can do in 24 hours, the rest of the world also has to do in 24 hours. And this resource must be utilized most efficiently and effectively. We have heard this, work from home is the new trend. And we know businesses will be redefined. And everybody is talking digital. Physical plus digital. I don't think it will be only digital. I don't think it will be only physical. In most of the industries, it will be phygital. But you know, pharma industry, and I take pride that I was a part of this industry for some time at least, has been a pioneer in terms of remote working. Our sales people have worked from variety of places across the country. And so what pharma has been doing for years, the rest of the world will do it in AC, like BC, AD, AC, that is after Corona. So those of us who are in pharma should take lot of satisfaction from the fact that remote working is something which we are used to. We have been pioneers. Others are going to do what we have been doing for so many years. But does it make us any better off than others? The answer needs to be thought through. To me, remote is the new near. And I need to define this remote. This remote is about 6 behavior that we all need to imbibe. R is for responsiveness. Please note, I'm not talking of responsibility. I am talking of responsiveness. How quickly we respond is going to become very important for all of us. E is all about empathy. We need to feel for others because there are people who have gone through hell during this pandemic, and a lot of people will take much more time than any one of us to recover from it. M is mastery. Let me tell you one thing. Whatever we are doing, if we cannot master that, we do not have a future. Earlier we could be, I am there, I am fine, I am good, things are moving. Manpower rationalization, remember I spoke about? Those who cannot develop and exhibit mastery in the area that they are working for have a very difficult future. And only being a master at your work will not do. You need to demonstrate ownership. Boss will not be standing over your head to see whether you are doing what is expected of you. Timeliness, it's linked directly to responsiveness. It is not only about doing things on time, it is about respecting one's own time, respecting others' time, and the timeliness of any action, behavior that we undertake at work and at home is equally important. And finally, it is about enthusiasm. When the pandemic will get totally eradicated from this country in the world, none of us know. But we all know that we will move towards the way we used to live life, which was BC, that is before Corona. It will come back. That's for sure. But when? Nobody knows. And in which form? Nobody knows. But one needs to be enthusiastic about all the challenges that one is facing if one really wants to blossom, and I'm using a very strong word, blossom in this area of, in this era of opportunity. I know for sure that for most of us, or at least for friends, relatives, colleagues, 3 words are extremely dominant in our emotions: uncertainty, insecurity, and despair. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of insecurity, a lot of despair. But I think what we need to focus on is relevance. The idea is that we must look at how are we relevant in the complete picture. If we are in pharma, we cannot look only pharma. If we are in hospital, we cannot look only hospital. We have to look at healthcare as an industry which is supposed to increase threefold by 2022. Medical tourism is going to grow at 18%. Government expenditure as a percentage of GDP is going to increase. Health insurance is going to gain momentum. I'll give a very dramatic example. All of us know health insurance penetration is extremely low in our country. But do you agree with me that this pandemic has established the need for people to opt for health insurance? And if I am representing a pharma company and I am known in my social circles, I should be looked upon as an authority by my friends, family, and others in the society as to which health insurance should I go for. And that gives me an opportunity to actually market health insurance to people who will benefit from it. And that will only happen if I have built my reputation as a professional in this industry. That's an opportunity. A person who's sitting in C1 and representing company X has an equal opportunity of marketing health insurance to people in his neighborhood, in his society, as much as Uday and I have in Kolkata. But the fact is, this is an opportunity which we cannot deny. So there are multiple opportunities which are emerging, and all because of the change in behavior. I am repeating, change in behavior. If we can align to the opportunities, adapt our behavior to the requirements of the situation, I don't see any reason why we will not see much better days as we go forward. So what we need to do is check our own relevance. And relevance means adaptability. Survival of the fittest is what Charles Darwin had said. And in this world, the person who will survive is the person who can adapt the best. Ask these 4 questions. Who am I? Why am I relevant to this world? What do I do to keep myself relevant? And what happens if the rate of external change increases further? Unless we ask ourselves these questions and answer them truthfully, it will not work for any one of us. Let me give a personal example. I mentioned that we do marketing consulting, and we've been doing it for many years now. 4 years back, I realized that digital marketing is here to stay. I am 57 now. 4 years back, at the age of 53, I attended classes to learn digital marketing. Because I know as a marketing consultant, if I do not understand digital marketing, if I cannot guide my clients on digital marketing, I will no longer be relevant to them as a marketing consultant. So we need to figure out what's happening. Like now I know technology has to take a new turn. So we are looking at how we can bring in technology which can benefit our clients in the business that they are in. Because as a consultant, we believe that our primary motto is to help organizations improve or increase their businesses profitably. We are extremely focused on the last word, that is profitably. Digital understanding enhances our personal branding. Let me begin by saying I must request all of us in this meeting today, I do not know how many of us are attending now, that consider yourself as a brand. My experience suggests a lot of people think people who are famous are brands. No. All of us are brands because all of us are unique. I believe I'm extremely successful. I am not famous. I cannot bat like Sachin Tendulkar can do even at the age of 42 or 48. But Sachin Tendulkar cannot make a presentation like I do at the age of 57. So who am I? What is my personal brand? And that brand needs to be understood and nurtured. And today, digital gives us the option propagate about our brand, about ourselves. And that is why it is important that we understand digital. An employee in this virus has evolved from working in fixed hours, working anytime, working from an office to anywhere, company equipment to any device, focused on inputs to focused on outputs. You can create your own ladder, you can customize your work, you can share information, you can become a leader. Believe me, those of you who are serious about enhancing your personal brand, you cannot always rely on your organization to help you attend training programs. You have to find your own training programs and invest in yourself. We never do that. We never do that. We don't invest. We invest in clothes, we invest in shoes, we invest in sunglasses, we invest in many things for ourselves. But hardly have I found anybody, very few rather, who invests in himself or herself for self-development. Digital gives us the opportunity to connect with people who are with digital throughout the day. These are numbers which are already outdated. If you look at number of people who are on Amazon, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, personally, I would say for a professional, LinkedIn is the most important digital asset that you need to create. Please mark my words. I'm saying asset. Next comes Facebook, and third is Twitter. Twitter is a little advanced, but it's worth it. Even if you are not tweeting yourself, it is worth being in Twitter to know what others are tweeting. These digital platforms enable any one of us to build our own brand digitally. But remember, this time that has come and the tide which is favorable will not wait for anybody. Unless we act fast, we will miss out on the opportunity that we have been presented. What we need to look at is both at the organization level and the individual level, we need to figure out as to how do we build our digital footprint. So what we need to answer is, in order to build my digital footprint, where should I build my digital footprint? LinkedIn, Facebook, you have to prioritize. How do I build my digital footprint? You just can't, you can always, I always say you can become famous by doing the wrong things, but that's not the way you want to become a known person. When do I put the digital footprint? When? Weekend, weekdays, morning, afternoon? By whom do I increase the digital footprint? And this I'm talking more perspective of the organization. How does the organization increase its digital footprint? By utilizing its own team members, by utilizing its own business system, business ecosystem, by utilizing its own customers. And as an individual, I can always look at my bosses, I can look at my ex-colleagues, I can look at my many other people who can help me increase my digital footprint. What should be my digital footprint about? What is it about? For example, let me give you an example. I have recently taken to Twitter, and I have just chosen one platform, hashtag because people matter. So whatever I tweet is supporting this hashtag, because people matter, whether I'm commenting on cricket, whether I'm commenting on this webinar, on anything that I do, it is all about because people matter, because that is what I want to build for my personal brand on Twitter. And why? Because for us, HR consulting and trading are two very, very important offerings from Ideas Consulting Group. And we believe that this pandemic has created new opportunity for us in HR consulting, especially in terms of setting up HR practices which would help organizations to get more productivity out of the people who they have retained after right sizing. How do you get them to deliver more? You pay anyway the same that you are paying at the end of the month. And we also believe that training is an area where a lot of investment will be done both by organizations and individuals, because without which we will not be able to take the next steps forward. In digital marketing, there are 4 types of media which we must be aware of. Owned media is, let's say, the website of a company. My Facebook account is my owned media. So what I do in terms of my owned media is my choice. Shared media is which I share with others, where social media comes in beautifully. Earned media is when somebody else writes about me. And paid media is when I pay to appear in certain digital platforms which are relevant to me. What we need to figure out is this digital footprint, how will it be created across all the 4 basic classification: owned, shared, earned, and paid. Chapter in itself, but as knowledge you must know that you will be shared only if you be relevant. If you do good work, will others write about you? Paid, you can always pay to advertise, but that's not the best way to do it. And what you do with your own website is something which can help you do a lot of stuff. The singular objective, however, is it is about being discovered as an individual or an organization. If somebody is looking for a career switch in pharma industry and types that which are the pharmaceutical companies which are recruiting now, and if my pharma company comes up on top, and then the person gets into the review and figures out that this is the best place to work, you attract talent, which otherwise is a cost. If somebody is looking for a professional in the pharma industry and puts in a search and your name comes up, then you are being discovered as an individual. So the idea of building brand digitally is about discovery. When people search for anybody which is relevant to me or my organization, we should appear on the top of the search. We all know what a search is. We've been doing it for Google. But let me add something which is very, very important. A lot of digital marketing companies talk of digital marketing. But to me, digital behavior is incomplete without digital responsiveness. Let me give an example. We have been doing a lot of digital marketing work for different hospitals. So one of the things that we do is we ask the hospital client to name who are your 3 top competitors, and we do a thorough digital audit. So one of the things which we find in many hospitals is that you can book an appointment through the website, right? And we actually generate an inquiry and we see how quickly are we connected, how are we spoken with to get the appointment. That is all about digital response. People miss out on this. You may create the awareness that you need to. However, if you don't respond quickly in the digital world, no one has the patience to wait for you. And this digital responsiveness is more about attitude, policies, processes, and least about technology. You can enhance the digital responsiveness of your organization with minimum investment in technology if you get the first 4 right, and you can invest billions of dollars in technology and will have no use if the 4 stated above is not used. And therefore, it is important to identify digital touch points, define and deliver the digital experience. And this is what will make or break any business. So digital marketing cannot be seen in isolation. It has to be seen in context with the digital behavior that the organization or the individual will deliver based on the digital awareness that is created about a brand. And this definitely implies change. Why do people do not want to change? My experience, I am 87, so that's roughly around 34 years that I have been a graduate of IIM Calcutta. First is, of course, fear of the unknown, and of course, fear of failure. These are two most biggest bottlenecks for people to change. We were all in the comfort zone. Everything was going right. But today, if we do not take risk, the biggest risk we can take is by not taking a risk. So what if the world is going digital? I will remain analog is not an option anymore. So we have to move from a comfort zone to a fear zone, to a learning zone, and to a growth zone. And during COVID-19, the image is shifting from what do I do in COVID-19 to a fear zone, to a learning zone, to a growth zone. By the way, the entire presentation will be available on the video that we are going to showcase on YouTube. You can stop the video, have a look, study what the charts are saying. Time is at a premium. We've already spent 50 minutes today, and there are a few more slides to go. I didn't realize the time, but my alarm tells that. All right, a quick one. All of us believe that we need to change, and I have a very simple formula for how do we bring about change within ourselves, and I call this the ABCD of change. And this is because change is the only constant of life. And the important point is we need to have continuous and consistent change. So A is I have to accept that I have to change. If I don't accept that I have to change, I'll never change. B is I must believe that I can change. If I accept that I can change, but I feel no, I cannot do this change, I will never be able to change. C is I must commit to the change. And D is I have to do the change. Just committing is not good enough. Let's look at me. I am heavy. I have to accept that. I must believe that I can lose weight. And in order to lose weight, I have to commit few things, less of this, more of that. But only commitment will not take me anywhere. I have to finally do the change. It's a very simple process. In any change management, it is all about ABCD of change. Accept that I have to change. I have to believe that I can change. I have to commit to the change, and I have to do the change. We must remember that others can only tell me why, what, and how to change. But the fact remains, I have to change. Nobody else can change for me. Nobody else can become digitally savvy for me. I have to become digitally savvy. If I want to build my digital footprint, I need to do it. Just announcing that I can do this won't help. The digital responsiveness, digital behavior, let's remember. So I have often asked, where do we begin? To me, there is no end. Change is a continuous process. Let's begin with what is in our control. Let us not try to change something which is really not in my control. Do I have control over doing a thorough self-assessment on how am I relevant? The answer is yes. Can I draw up a plan based on that? The answer is yes. Can I look at how I make my brand, build my brand digitally? The answer is yes. But let's look at things which we can do. We have denied and resisted change in many things that we have done in life. From denial, we go to resistance, then we move to exploration, and then we are committed to change. And this is the past, and where we have to go forward is the future. There are 4 phases of transition. We keep denying, then we resist. Somewhere there is a change of mind, then we start exploring, and then we commit. So what is needed is what I call ask yourself. We must all ask ourselves, what's our attitude? What are the skills where we stand out? And what is my level of knowledge? And to me, the biggest asset in the world is the mindset. And it's the attitude which sets you apart. Some skills which we are going to find of much, much greater relevance in this changing world, and this was based on discussion with many CEOs who are my batchmates, is analytical skills, communication skills, networking skills, and people management skills. These four skills were always there. They need to be sharpened to the current context. And these are mandatory for us to actually become digitally responsive. We know skills can be developed. And so far knowledge is concerned, what we know, right? We also know what we don't know, but we do not know what we do not know. I know that I can make a presentation. I know that I cannot fly an aircraft. These are something I know, something I know, I don't know. But that I don't know what I don't know. And that is more than 99.9% knowledge that exists in this universe. We need to figure out what is relevant and what we must know, our services, competitors' services, industry, customers' industries, related industries, and digital behavior. Unless we are knowledgeable about all these, we are not going to survive and grow in the world that we are now trying to navigate. And remember, change cannot be just like that. Change has to be contextual, it has to be relevant, it has to be continuous, and most importantly, it has to be measurable. What you cannot measure, you cannot progress. Trouble. So we must change to the context, which is that there is digital behavior change all around us. The change has to be relevant, which means which is relevant to me. We cannot just say I have changed and that's over. It has to be a continuous process, and we must be able to measure whatever we are trying to change to understand whether we are progressing in the right direction or not. But it is finally who will change or not change is about all of us and our motivations to change. Warren Buffett, we know, is a big guy and he has made some very interesting comments. And he says that I want to put it, there are many, on taking risk, never test the depth of the river with both the feet. You cannot drown. Our eyes are placed in front because it is more important to look ahead than to look back. Past is a waste paper, present is a newspaper, and future is the question paper. Come out of your past, control the present, and secure the future. Wonderful. And finally, I want to show you a video which says, Abhik, we will come to your questions, definitely. 30 days are needed for anybody to change. It's a TED Talk. Have a look.
A few years ago, I felt like I was stuck in a rut. So I decided to follow in the footsteps of the great American philosopher, Morgan Spurlock, and try something new for 30 days. The idea is actually pretty simple. Think about something you've always wanted to add to your life and try it for the next 30 days. It turns out 30 days is just about the right amount of time to add a new habit or subtract a habit, like watching the news, from your life. There's a few things that I learned while doing these 30-day challenges. The first was, instead of the months flying by forgotten, the time was much more memorable. This was part of a challenge I did to take a picture every day for a month. And I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing that day. I also noticed that as I started to do more and harder 30-day challenges, my self-confidence grew. I went from desk-dwelling computer nerd to the kind of guy who bikes to work for fun. Even last year, I ended up hiking up Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa. I would never have been that adventurous before I started my 30-day challenges. I also figured out that if you really want something badly enough, you can do anything for 30 days. Have you ever wanted to write a novel? Every November, tens of thousands of people try to write their own 50,000-word novel from scratch in 30 days. It turns out, all you have to do is write 1,667 words a day for a month. So I did. By the way, the secret is not to go to sleep until you've written your words for the day. You might be sleep deprived, but you'll finish your novel. Now, is my book the next great American novel? No, I wrote it in a month. It's awful. But for the rest of my life, if I meet John Hodgman at a TED party, I don't have to say, I'm a computer scientist. No, if I want to, I can say, I'm a novelist. So here's one last thing I'd like to mention. I learned that when I made small, sustainable changes, things I could keep doing, they were more likely to stick. There's nothing wrong with big, crazy challenges. In fact, they're a ton of fun, but they're less likely to stick. When I gave up sugar for 30 days, day 31 looked like this. So here's my question to you. What are you waiting for? I guarantee you the next 30 days are going to pass whether you like it or not. So why not think about something you have always wanted to try and give it a shot for the next 30 days? Thanks.
I think it's a very pertinent point that this gentleman makes in this video. Whether we do anything or not, next 30 days will go from our lives. It may be worthwhile doing something over this 30 days. And I thought this picture captured it all. The person may have lost everything, but he still has the belief or faith in his skill and ability that I can stitch life again. Thank you so much. You enjoy the challenge, enjoy the change, and it's actually quite enjoyable. Thank you then. And we are open to taking any questions.
Thanks, Deepak. Such a wonderful and lively presentation. I think we have a couple of questions. Let me read it out.
Sure.
I will not be mentioning the name, but I will spell out the question. To measure.
I can take the name also. You want me to look at the name? I can get it on my screen as well.
No. I can see the names, okay. But I think questions are more important and interesting for everybody to listen. To measure the impact of digital promotion to doctors, the evaluation needs to be done physically at ground level. Promotional style will change, but requirement of manpower can't reduce. Please share your views.
All right, thank you for a question. It's a very relevant question. What you have said in the first part of the question is you hit the nail on the head. Whether we reach out to the doctors digitally, physically, whichever manner, we want more prescriptions from the doctors so that our products sell more. That yardstick will never change. However, what will happen is, my belief is that today what happens, if the doctors who are important are not available to medical representatives all the time, I hope you will agree with me. They have the slots during which 5, 7, 10 medical representatives will come and they vie for an attention and they do the detailing. Correct. Now the doctor himself, whether he will be open to this type of a physical meeting with the medical representatives of the pharma industry will depend entirely on the doctor. Point number one. Point number two, if I look at it from a cost rationalization point of view, the more remotely placed the doctor is, the more cost effective of the company would be to reach out to that doctor digitally rather than having a field force who's there physically. What may happen, that doesn't mean there will be nobody. The job roles will get realigned where I think there will be a separate team which will look at the chemist part of the story, the entire distribution part of the story, and there is a separate team which is looking at the promotion part of the story. And these people who will have, when the responsibility gets bifurcated, the area of coverage will go up because the time available to the teams would be higher. And this could lead to some amount of manpower rationalization. Point one. Point two, I also said in the same breath that while existing teams may shrink, new opportunities will have new teams. So overall, which way it will go, difficult to judge. However, I think it is important for us to accept that phygital will become the way forward, and that could have some amount of impact on manpower count.
Deepak, I understand. If I can just have an extended view of what you are saying,
Sure.
that means the way forward is that manpower will be required, but new skill will be needed for those people who will be engaged in the field.
Okay. And the roles will be redefined.
And roles will be redefined, as you rightly said.
We know we are working with companies, I'm interrupting you there, advanced companies, where this digital detailing through satellite is getting captured. What time, what have you detailed, which product, how much time have you spent to the doctor? We never had that type of surveillance, if I may use the word, did I?
Absolutely.
I mean,
For example, what comes to my mind, right? Only a few months back or a couple of years back, when companies used to conduct the CMEs, the reps used to go make the invitation, hand over the invitation, wait for the person to arrive at, and give full respect and with all cordiality, bring him to the venue. And then the speaker comes and he's welcomed warmly and delivers the lectures and goes. Now that is going to change because
Absolutely.
the platform is going to change. Right.
Absolutely.
The second thing, what, as I say, as Deepak, you rightly mentioned, for a new skill development, that means the new training needs will also emerge.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Absolutely. New training need, one of the things which I did not touch upon, written communication will never be so important as it is today. When I say written communication, I'm just not talking of an email. How do I text a doctor? That needs to be trained.
Correct. A very simple example, but it has a huge meaning and impact. How do I text a doctor?
It is reflecting the brand that you are representing as a company. It is representing your individual brand.
Correct. And another thing with digital, innovations will bring. Earlier, pharma companies were restricted up to the pharmacy or chemist level. That means doctors, distributors, pharmacy, chemist. I think now they are going to reach directly to the patient. At the intervention will take place at the patient's level for more value-added service and for more, creating more value to the whole world, to the simple world called life.
It's that belief that I can be treated remotely.
Right.
And the doctors believe that I can treat remotely. I mean, right. Uday, you remember that simple innovation which we did when I was a product manager for Bicosools. We created that video cassette which was about how we produce Bicosools in Pfizer factory. Right. And a lot of doctors took it home to show it to their families.
Correct.
Do you remember? Today
Absolutely.
You can do a straight Facebook Live from that Zonazi machine to the doctor's home.
Correct.
Today, a research scientist in Pfizer US can address the top cardiologists in India without traveling anywhere.
Absolutely.
This is a possibility, which was not the case earlier.
Absolutely. Right.
The clinical trial, the entire clinical trial digitization will change.
Correct.
Everything, the data capture will change. The prescription which is going to be digitized is going to be a huge source of data.
And we have seen in the present form of clinical trials how quickly the regulators gives approval. Now, everything is done digitally, and it is connected. The entire research is connected with the mainframe of the regulators.
Absolutely.
Right.
You will
So
see
Deepak,
the way robots will be marketed for hospital equipment.
correct. Deepak, if I may go to the next question. Do we have any company in India who gives the ready-made data of doctors in digital details?
No, not to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. Second is, sir, do you think that marketing team will have more responsibility than sales team?
I will not get into this debate today because, well, let me tell you something. To me, marketing and sales are like the right arm and left arm of the same human body. As a marketing person in Pfizer, I have always believed that my first customer was the sales team, and Uday will vouch for that. If I could convince the sales team to take the message that I want to for the products that I was handling in the way that I want them to the doctors, I will succeed as a marketing person. And that will never change. Yes, what will change is because people have become digitally savvy, everybody does a Google for everything.
Correct.
So this online reputation management, we have just signed a partnership with a company, young company called Budbee, to offer a very comprehensive digital marketing service to all sectors. They are currently the chosen digital marketing partner for Apollo Hospitals. They have started using a platform for Quora. I'm sure we have heard.
I have heard of Quora. Yes.
People have used it. Quora is basically where you go and ask a question. And that question itself is actually a need of a customer. And if we can capture that question and address that question through my brand, that will have a different implication. However, what may happen is the marketing picks it up, relays the information to the salesperson who's closer to the market, who can, based on that insight, make a call to a doctor or a chemist or a patient directly. So
Correct.
That is what is going to happen, where marketing and sales have to work much more in tandem. Earlier, what used to happen, at least during my days in Pfizer, quarterly we used to meet. Here, there is no quarterly. We are connected. And that is going to change the entire dimension.
Correct.
Marketing is a detailing story. Let me just give an example. And if the team is technologically enabled, where one can see how much time one is spending on which page with which type of doctor, that data can come into marketing, which can help them to recreate the detailing story. You don't have to print. Earlier you used to print, which is a cost. Here it's just a digital substitution. So these are the possibilities which will become very, very useful.
Correct. There is a very interesting question which has come. Sir, being a manager, changing the rigid thought process of subordinate is getting more tougher after COVID situation. How to address the situation in a more smooth manner?
Excellent question. Thank you for asking this question. Remember one of the slides which I showed about skills. This slide perhaps has the answer that you are seeking for. As a manager, you need to be, you means I'm not talking about you as a person, I'm talking everybody who's in a role that you are performing has to focus on these skills. Look at networking skills. I don't know how many times you would have seen it in a presentation. Here comes the convincing skills, conflict resolution, proactive behavior. And remember the remote, that definition of remote that I have given. So I feel in this situation, there are many ways of doing it. One is by leading by example. One, which is the most preferred one. Second, actually understanding individuals, which is the left-handmost box, setting and managing expectation, and then getting work done. My experience suggests that we are unable to understand people as individuals. By the way, those of you who are interested, 18th we have a session on human behavior and individualization of human behavior, with two uh, sort of experts will talk of how you find out what is the individual motivation and nudge at it to get the change done. That's second. Third, which is very, very important, is what I call the implication method of change. What if you do not change? And if the implication is made abundantly clear without getting threatened, I think people who are sensible will change. And finally, I want to add, there will still be a certain percentage of people who are not bothered. They will not. Let us not lose our sleep. You need to figure out in your team which are the people who will change first. Get them to change. Let the others see the results that they achieve because of the change that they have brought in. Then there will be some more people who will follow, and there are some people who will be not.
Right. Deepak. Thank you. I think very well explained. Deepak, there is one more question which comes. CRO business may be the future. What do you think?
CRO.
Yes.
Chief Revenue Officer.
Ultimately, everything boils down to the revenue.
That position will always remain. I have been that for a media house, and I know what it is to be in that position. I mean, your appraisal is like everybody can appraise it, that you're doing a good job or not doing a job. But here I want to add one point. And if you are interested, you can look at the video which we have on our Ideas YouTube channel. I think the focus has to be on key performance indicators, which means the efforts. What is in our control? What can be influenced by anybody and all of us is our efforts. Results are not always in our control. However, the probability of achieving the results that we desire increases if our efforts in quantity, quality, and direction are all aligned towards the results that we want to achieve. And as a CRO, you can achieve nothing if every team below you doesn't achieve what is supposed to be.
There is one last question. When we go digital in promoting our brand, medical or pharma, don't you think there can be a medico-ethical issue?
Sure. You cannot detail a product in a what I call mass media. We never saw this, but today, if you see, when I drive around, I hear this vaccine where a lady is saying, I need to vaccinate my child, which is the best vaccine. You must talk to your pediatrician, and pneumococcal coverage better. And then in the end, it says brought for public notice by Pfizer. Nobody can stop us. So patient education, trade education, doctor education, paramedic education, nurses education, there is no problem.
Very rightly said, yeah.
It's about only product. No. Product is, of course, important, but everything around it becomes very, very important. I remember when I launched AmloGuard, which is amlodipine, we talked about something called a circadian variation.
Correct.
Most cardiologists in this country had never heard of circadian variation. And we had to first establish what is the concept of circadian variation, and therefore why you need a 24-hour coverage with the molecule that you're using as a calcium channel blocker. I still remember the way. Why amlodipine is the best choice for that. I think somebody raised his hand.
So, but what is more important is that, see, what we understand from the industry source, that there will be a new OTC policy, which is almost about to be tabled to the cabinet. And many of the products which are currently is known as Schedule H drug, that means has to be sold as a prescription, on prescription, may come out of it. So, and as you rightly said, because today I have read an article that for senior citizens, see, this is a country of 1.3 billion, right? Let us remember that thing. For senior citizens who are remotely placed, who are wage earners or who has retired and all those things, for them, government is going to make telemedicine called free. There will not be any consultation charge for, for routine disease or for even some chronic disease. To make that possible, that means that telemedicine to be effective, now there has to be a bunch of products which has to come out of Schedule H, where you don't need a prescription, probably a recorded voice message of a doctor suggesting or prescribing that sort of medication to the patient. So that is what is going to happen, because it's a next thing. I think in next 2 to 3 months time, the cabinet is going to approve this new OTC product schedule approved.
In fact, Uday, look at the scope and the immense possibility of the data which is being captured on the CoWIN app.
Absolutely.
You have my Aadhaar number, you know what are my comorbidities, and when I have been vaccinated, where do I live. So this data is going to be a humongous opportunity for the government to take healthcare to the doorstep.
Correct.
Mark my words, the house surgeonship that medical colleges have, part of it will be in remote areas but connected digitally to the classes.
Correct. Because that itself is a new opportunity. There is always a resistance we have seen among
hands-on experience. Believe me, the scope cannot be thought about. It's humongous. America is convinced that Quad, which I spoke about, has been convinced that they should fund vaccine manufactured in India. Once that is announced, you can imagine where we are going to go.
Correct.
Our international diplomacy is at its peak now.
And not only that, Deepak, I remember during when we used to go to the field, junior doctors were very reluctant to go to be, to the remote places or to be posted, which is mandatory or part of the course of MBBS. Before getting the certificate of MBBS, they have to go and work in this. So those things, I think, will be days of the past. And now everything will be, they will be connected digitally to the remote areas where the service will be provided and advices will be given.
In fact, what will happen is, if you see the number of AIIMS is increasing across the country, right? So what I anticipate is each AIIMS will become the hub. And with PPP partnership, government will open a lot of medical colleges under a hub of an AIIMS.
Right.
That is where a lot of doctors, paramedics, nurses will get trained. And you cannot have a medical college without hospital facility. That is what is going to happen, where AIIMS will be the center of excellence, looking after a particular geographical area, under which there will be so many medical colleges which will come up in the PPP model. It's going to be humongous.
See, Deepak, that itself gives a opening up a channel. Earlier days, the headquarters used to be decided on the location of the medical college or the medicine teaching hospitals, right?
Absolutely.
That has to be the headquarters of the rep. Now, in the future to come, I think this hub concept, that is the reason I said the training needs will change. The skill needed for the new generation of medical reps or even the current recruitees which are taking place, that is going to change. That is going to have a paradigm change, and especially the companies which are looking for the set skills, they have to realign those skills for the future.
Look at it this way. India is the youngest population globally.
Correct.
The medical interface or the healthcare interface of the younger generation will be different from my generation. They are much more digitally savvy. They were never read a newspaper. Whatever news they have seen is in their mobile phones. So their expectation from the healthcare and the pharma industry will be different.
Correct.
And what they will demand is transparency. We cannot hide things under the carpet.
Absolutely.
Become transparent. What, if you recall, we had this summary of prescribing information was a must, where we were told that even if you don't detail what is the benefit of the product, you must detail what is the adverse reaction, what are the contraindications. That will be placed upfront before what the drug can do.
Correct.
So things are changing. By the
Deepak,
way,
coming to the, I think we are all, I mean, the discussion is going on, and we have two more questions.
wow.
And then we wrap up the session. One question will take: COVID has affected seriously the regular field work. Your suggestion and comment on it.
It has. And that's why we need to reinvent on in terms of how we connect with doctors. So let's look at it this way. I always say when we do workshops on problem solving, our basic motto is the solution to a large extent depends on how you define your problem. Let me give an example. One of our clients is a huge jewelry brand in Calcutta, and they wanted to do a CSR program on conservation of water. So one of the programs which was thought of at that point of time was that people will congregate in one of the parks in Calcutta, and the mayor of Calcutta along with these people and all of us will walk to another park and hot scorching sun, and where there will be a session on how to conserve water, etc., etc., and there will be some performance by some band. So when we did the recce, we realized that the time that we have, it is going to be extremely hot, and people like me with no protection on the top will have cracks. So the idea was we need something on the head, on the roof. And then when we estimated the total span of coverage that we need, the cost of that coverage would be more than the entire project. So what did we do? So the problem we defined is that people should be in the shade during that time. See, it's different from there has to be something on top. So people have to be on a shade. So we looked at the angle of the sun and we created a slanted shade so that the shadow would cover a larger distance. So the point that I'm trying to make is, why do we make calls? We make calls to contact the doctor and have a communication with him. So we must think is, given that there are restrictions, given that there are challenges, my problem definition should be, how do I communicate with the doctor, given that I can meet him less for a variety of reasons. The moment we look at the challenge in this prism, I'm sure there are a lot of things which will come in, which we can do, which we may not have done before.
Okay, now the last one. Even after COVID is over, say after 1 or 2 years, will digital pharma marketing will lose its relevance and physical marketing will be the main?
It will in fact increase. Because I'll give an example. We have clients and we have weekly review meetings. Earlier I used to go and visit the client. Now it is decided that we'll do it online. So we are spoiled. Digital has its merits. And when people embrace it, it will continue. What may happen is the need for a physical meeting could be different from what it is today. Example, that I remember used to give samples. I suppose now as per law, you cannot give samples, right? Earlier, we used to give samples and we used to tell the doctor, please try it on 5 patients, this, that, etc. So now I don't think you can give it. Am I right? So what will happen is a physical meeting may be required for meeting some need of the doctor, which we cannot meet digitally. For example, a doctor may say, so therefore I was about to say something which is very important for all of us to note, that the first thing that I would recommend all of you to do is in your master calling list, if that is what is the terminology you still use, you should bifurcate your doctors into digitally savvy, partially savvy, and digitally resistant. That should determine your journey plan. That should determine your connect plan. That should determine your contact plan. We need to understand the doctor in terms of his digital adoption himself. Because if the doctor is digitally resistant, very few things we can do. Anything else, Uday?
I think that is the last question that we had. It is already more than 1.5 hours, 8:30, and it is Saturday night. So Deepak, we wrap up the session. I would request Darshan to unmute Mr. Ananda Chatterjee.
Shall I stop sharing?
Yes, please.